I mean, when it comes right down to it, you don't really have a mind or a body. Imagine if you went to Brazil and you heard that they have great fruit there. So, you got a papaya, you got a mango, you got some bananas, and you said, oh, it's great. I like the mango, I like the papaya, I like the banana, but now I really want to have a fruit. That would really just show a misunderstanding of how that word fruit works, right? Because those are all fruits. There's no such separate thing that's a fruit. There aren't mangoes and bananas and fruits. Mangoes and bananas are fruits. Right? So those words, fruit, on the one hand, mango, banana, papaya on the other hand, they work in different ways. They're different kinds of categories. And you'd be making a mistake about the category of that word if you thought fruit referred to one more thing of the same type, of the same category as apple, orange, pear, mango, banana, papaya, etc. So there, the difference in category is really that one is the generic term and the others are the specific terms that name the particular versions of it, the instances of it. But here's another kind of category. And this is an example that Ryle uses in his book, The Concept of Mind. Imagine your daughter was taking you on a tour of her university. And, at the end of the tour, you said, oh, that was great. Like, I saw the library, and I saw your classrooms, and I saw the books, and I saw all those students. I met your teachers, and now I really want to see the university, right? It's obviously the same kind of thing as what I was saying about fruit, but the relationship is a little bit different. With the word fruit, that was just a generic term, and all those things were kind of indifferent instances of it. With the university on the one hand, and the library, the students, the professors, the books, the classrooms on the other, they're not all just simple instances of a type. All those things are the university. The university isn't some other thing beside them. But the university is the way those different things are all organized together in pursuit of, in support of a certain common mission, a certain kind of common activity. And so, the apple just is a fruit. But the library isn't automatically part of the university. Like maybe it's a library that is both run by the city and run by the university. And university students can use it for university purposes, but local people can use it for other purposes. Well, then the university students are doing university when they go there and take out books and read things, but the local residents aren't. So university is a different kind of category than library or classroom or books. But it's not just that genus species kind of thing that we saw with the fruit and the apple. It is, as I said, the name of a kind of organizing principle, a defining principle, and in a way, you might think when the students are going there doing that stuff, that's the real thing they're doing, right? They're not just dealing with books. They're doing their university work. They're not just going into a library building. They're doing their university studying. So again, it would be a mistake of category to think that the library, the books, the students, and the university were all the same kind of category, as if there's this, and this, another one of the same type. But you also have to think to figure out, okay, what's the specific relationship between them? And indeed, the books don't relate to the university in quite the same way the library does, or the way the professors do, or the way the students do. Right? Complex and interesting relationship. Why is that interesting? Of course, you can recognize that it's just a logical mistake to confuse the categories there, but you probably wouldn't make that mistake about the fruit or about the university. But the fact is, that is a kind of mistake we make in some pretty important cases. In so many ways in our world, we operate with a pretty radical distinction between the idea of bodies and the idea of minds. And we come up with a whole set of rules for how bodies work, basically the things studied in physics, the way mass interacts with mass. And we study things in the realm of the mind, like the emotions. We ask, was that a medical problem or a psychological problem? We really treat mind and body as two things side by side one another, like apple and orange, or like library and classroom. And Ryle's point in the concept of mind is that that's another category mistake. In fact, the discourse we have about minds and the discourse we have about bodies, both of those are pretty important and pretty potent. We say a lot of true and important things in both of them. So in our everyday speech, we actually don't really have much trouble talking about emotions, talking about our self-consciousness, talking about thinking. We also are pretty good at talking about, how much that bag of rice weighs, or how much water it's going to take to fill this pail. We're really good at talking about each of those things on their own terms. Where we typically go wrong pretty seriously in theoretical matters, in psychology, in the sciences, in medicine, indeed in philosophy, is by trying to figure out how those two discourses can fit together. And we typically start off by presuming they're two discourses of the same type. And Ryle's point is that there we're making a category mistake, and it really comes out of not recognizing the way our words actually work. What our reality is, in any case, is that we behave intelligently. Behavior is the way this thing, let's call it my body, interacts with things in the world intelligently. It's the way I, in a discriminating, responsive way, can cope effectively with my material environment. That's all I ever am. That's all I'm ever doing. That is the reality of me and every one of you. Now, we can talk about that in terms of the way, when I act intelligently, this thing crashes up against this thing, and we can study various kinds of material relationships. Makes perfect sense. We can also talk about why that thing I was doing was an intelligent practice, no doubt related to my life pursuits and whatever else. In the one, when we're talking about the things crashing together, that's kind of like talking about the books in the classrooms. In the other, when we're talking about the intelligence in my discriminating involvement with a meaningful environment, we're talking about something like the university. Both of those discourses are important. Both of them tell us profound truths, but they're discourses of an entirely different type. So our mistake is thinking that there is one thing that is a body, defined by that one kind of discourse. There is another thing that is a mind, the putative cause of those things that we talk about in the other kind of discourse. And then we take these two reified things, the body and the mind, and say, either we're one or the other, or we're both of them, but somehow or other they don't really fit together that well. And the fact is, we're not really a body or a mind. What we are is a bit of intelligent behavior. And it's important to understand that all those things we say in our everyday talk, which make a lot of sense, are ways of talking about this one thing from different angles.